Okay, yes, sir.
Sorry, I just wanted to get back to the issue of the UN, because it seemed to me it's one of the biggest failings. You said that the UN has passed more, Security Council, no less, has passed more than 30 resolutions on the DRC.
60,
more than 60.
60 resolutions.
I do stand corrected.
Can we get VJ?
Yeah. The point, though, is that a lot of them have been ineffective. You know, like the diamond trading, that still goes on. Last night I was hearing there are a group of Lebanese people running that, yeah? The reduction in arms in the area. I mean, how are arms still getting there? Yeah? The ineffectiveness of, Munich to disarm the people with the mandate that they were given. And I noticed that you've called for the UN to do a lot of things, but they've tried. What more is it that needs to be done in order for some of the efforts that they've made to be more effective? I'm particularly interested in the appointment of the new commissioner on sexual violence from 1888. How can she be effective in her role?
Can I want Vijay to answer that question. Vijay.
Sure, okay. Well, if you want real answers, they are long-term answers. Like, we had violence in Northern Ireland for 30 years, and all the parties got fed up with violence, and they said, it's not working, and they sat down, had a dialogue, and the sworn enemies are sharing a parliament in Northern Ireland. So that is one of the answers. So and the other answer is the South Africa position of Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So if you want a real answer, it's dialogue, conflict resolution and reconciliation, because you have to, whatever happens, you bring the past open for the simple reason you bury it. Unless you cannot bring it open and bury it, as has happened in South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission and is in the dialogue in Northern Ireland and so many other places. That is the only long-term answer to it, because violence begets violence, and there are no military solutions to any problems in the world. So what happens is, there are different reasons for it. The reasons are resource, diamonds and other things, as you very rightly pointed out. But there are different reasons in each and every country. But all these parties have to be sat down by either the United Nations or other parties, and then work out a peace agreement by which they can live together. They know they have to live together, and why there has been violence for the last 60 years. You don't want violence for another 60 years. The time you wake up is the right time to start doing it, and the time is now.
Right. I'm going to field the questions like that. We haven't got much time. Any questions, please? Yes.
Hi there. You think that the UN is enormously discredited by its association with the Congolese government and the FARDC, the armed forces of the Congo?
Martha. Is the UN
I'm not an expert on that area. I don't know. I mean, I know that there was a lot of talk at the meeting that I attended in Brussels last week about the UN being just ineffective and not what was needed, and that it was but I really don't. I can't answer that. I don't know if you can. I know that there were commitments that were made by people from the EU last week to try to do different things and to do more and to try to get into the villages, because in spite of what was said, the aid is not getting to the people who need it.
Okay. Well, I think that's really a question. I want Nuda to respond to that, and also if you could just say, please keep it briefly, because I know that one or two speakers want to get off. Is that right? So we'll keep it very brief, and I've got one or two more questions. Nuda, can you?
Yeah, actually, the UN missions have been said to reform themselves, and it's actually in the mandate of the MONUC to help the security sector reform, and it's even one of the 60 resolutions taken by the UN Security Council. But the problem is, you have to understand that the infrastructure in DRC is very bad, and that's why sometimes they can't get to other places, even though Monique got helicopters and all that, but they still need more because of the country is very big. And another problem is, we've been talking about agreements. We had a lot of agreement. In 2002, we had the Inter-Congolese dialogue. We had that agreement. We had, before that, we had the Lusaka agreement. We had the Pretoria agreement after, and then we had the Nairobi agreement. We had Amani agreement. The problem is, it's not respected. They are not implementing them. Why they are not? Because they are not respecting them. These same people in conflict are signing those agreements. They say, putting them together for a dialogue, and then nothing is happening. When we came from the Congolese dialogue, after the Congolese dialogue, everybody was humble. And imagine we had 5 presidents, a government of 5 presidents, the president and 4 vice presidents, just to keep everybody in power. And this never happened anywhere else, just in DRC. You have 4 vice presidents in a country, just to put everybody together, to give everybody a space of power. But after that, it didn't last 2 years. We still getting into trouble. I think the problem is the implementation, the respect of what people are signing, what people are doing too. Because in Sun City, in the Congolese dialogue, we've been greeting each other, even those in the political party, enemies was talking to their enemies, and then we come up with an agreement, but nobody respected the agreement.
Right.
So I think the Monique also has to change strategies in what they do.
Short response.
Yes, a short response. And
Short response, yes, it's still discredited, like the UN missions in Darfur and Afghanistan. Mainly Afghanistan is a case where it's totally ignored, the UN mission. Now, what is the practical situation? Now, UN is blaming in DRC that the President Kabila or the government is in the way. But one thing. Secondly, they are saying they cannot enforce or implement peace against the jurisdiction and the will of the government. Which means, in other words, indirectly, what they're saying is, if all these rebel leaders with their armies and all that are scot-free, having coffee or drinks in the 5-star hotel, playing tennis, etc., and UN is saying, yes, we can take them up and bring it to the government, but government is not willing to entertain that. So that's one of the situations. So we don't know where the real blame is, but they are tossing one against the other.
Thank you, Vijay. And one final question.
I wonder about civil society in the Congo, how many groups there may be that the UN could work through. I'm in touch with one small organization. They're based in Bukavu and called Peace and Conflict Reconciliation Project. They managed to have a big seminar last year on all the right sort of conflict resolution approaches, but I'm sure they're very small and they're always struggling for funding. But how much of that is there that you know of?
Yeah, there are a lot of organizations in DRC, a lot. And if you go to Bukavu, you might have more than 30 organizations. More than 30 organizations in the grassroots, just in one province. But the problem is, the civil society in DRC is very poor. And all the funding is given to international NGOs who goes to the ground. You give them the funding to Save the Children, you give the funding to all those organizations going to help people in there. Those who are having the funding. So that's why we did in our recommendation recommend that the UN, if the UN mission, the UN can also fund the grassroots organizations. And the other problem is, those who are actually in the villages, they can't, because the international NGO can't get to those villages and they are isolated. So there's no way they can really help. But I think there are those people we need, or the United Nations or anybody, the international community, need to reach.